as your life coach, I'm going to teach you some life-changing skills because I'm specifically going to share with you the tips that you need to try to be effortlessly cool. So I know that as a teen in junior high and high school, that's what I wanted. You can tell when somebody's trying to be cool or suave, and all those things. And I just wanted to be effortlessly cool. And I know that all of us can think of and picture a person in their mind that when I say effortlessly cool, you think of that person. These are the skills that I've broken down and thought about what were they doing that made all the difference. And I'm going to share them with you. First and foremost, in your journey to be effortlessly cool, you've got to be inclusive. You've got to be that person that includes others, that accepts others, that lets others be in their group. Now, please, before you leave me a comment, before you shoot me a DM and you're like, Abbi, but the coolest person in my school is a jerk. And so they must not follow your tips and they're not inclusive and they're just so rude, but they're so popular. Okay, thank you for telling me this because I know this, right? We know that there's a lot of popular people out there who are rude, who are not inclusive, who are total jerks. But let me tell you something. You know this, right? Like everybody, because you just told that to me. You're like, Abbi, this person's a jerk, but they're really cool and popular. So I would venture to say that maybe while your whole student body knows them, or at least a lot of them know who they are and stuff, they're giving off a vibe that they're a jerk. And yes, you can be popular and a jerk, but I don't want that for you. I want you to be popular and kind. I want you to be that person that 10 years after high school, people are like, man, that girl was so cool. She was so nice. And I promise you that 10 years after high school, I'm not thinking about the people who were so cool and jerks, right? Because they're not important. Instead, I want you to create just like the legacy, for a better, like lack of a better word, of being an effortlessly cool person, because that's going to carry with you throughout your whole life. I promise you that those kids that are jerks and that are mean and popular, their popularity is going to end the moment school does, because nobody likes hanging out with a person that's a jerk. And for some reason, we kind of put up with it in high school and junior high because they're cool and we think that there's things and all that social stuff, it's all there, right? That dies the moment school is done, right? That dies the moment somebody's willing to stand up and say, I think you're a jerk, right? So I don't want that for you. And before you shoot me a comment about how there are people that you know that are mean and don't include other people that are popular, sweet, I know you're right. I know it's true for myself because I've seen it in my own experience, but I don't want that for you. Okay, my second tip to being effortlessly cool is you do not want to let the little things bother you. Now, there are so many little things that happen at school all the time. Oh my gosh, all the time. But when I think of the people that were effortlessly cool in my school, they were the people that, like, I'm thinking of this one friend in particular. Like, I think I kind of, like, one day I, kind of bumped into him and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, And he was just like, not a big deal. Like, I'm so grateful I got to, bump into you today. How are you, right? They don't let little things bother them. They don't get upset very often. They just are kind of riding the wave of high school very gracefully. And that's kind of this attitude I want you to embrace, is like, hey, listen, I don't get upset about little things. And think about it in your own circle of friends. Who do you feel the safest with and who do you love hanging out with? It's your friends that probably just love and accept you, and you could, spill juice all over your front and they'd still want to hang out with you. You could totally, I'm trying to think of what you could do to upset your friend, which is a weird thing to think about. But you could spill juice on your friend and they'd be like, oh man, okay, I'm gonna go wipe this up, but yeah, not a big deal, right? That's when I think of my best friend. I could just do a lot of things that happen as human beings, of make a mistake or trip or, accidentally bonk them, and they just wouldn't even care. They would just like let those little things roll off their back. So effortlessly cool people are like that. They don't let these little things get in their way, and they're really not upset. They're pretty like unflappable. They're just like, you know what? I'm gonna roll with the punches. This third tip is huge, and that is to use your humor. Now, if you've watched any of my other videos on being popular and charisma, you know that humor is a big, big part of it. But specifically when it comes to being effortlessly cool, I want you to use your humor. So I'm a firm believer that every single person thinks that they're really funny. There's humor in daily life, there's humor in our living, and we all have different levels of humor. There's some people who are class clowns and they just love like telling jokes and being funny and saying things and just being outlandish, right? With their bodies, right? Or with like events and circumstances, and they just can make it so energetic. Think like Jim Carrey, right? His style of comedy is so different than Ellen DeGeneres, right? Hers is a little bit more witty. It's a little bit more like subtle or in her looks or her expressions, right? Where Jim Carrey's is actually like in his body. But both are extremely hilarious people, right? So I'm not here to tell you, well, you should say these jokes and you should specifically do these things to be more humorous. I'm saying use your humor. And one of the things to being effortlessly cool is like putting your humor out there, because it can be a little bit scary, I will admit, right? You think of something funny to say in your head and you're like, no, I won't say that, or that'd be kind of weird, okay, whatever, right? I'm inviting you to just take those opportunities. So often we don't take those opportunities to be humorous because we're worried about what other people will think. But I so enjoy when people like really embrace their sense of humor and they really just sprinkle it into their day. So I want to invite you to just like sprinkle your humor into your day and to take that little step of bravery of just trying to be a little bit more of a humorous person and taking those opportunities for humor when they come. Okay, effortlessly cool people have mastered this tip, and that is that they embrace their quirks. Okay. I'm here to tell you this. I hope it doesn't burst your bubble, but we all have quirks. We all have really like weird and strange things about us. And one I share on my channel a lot, especially if you follow me on Instagram, is that I love hippos. I just do. Right? And there was a time in my life in high school, especially, I remember, it was probably junior high actually, I had like this giant pile of hippos in my room. And I do understand that, you know, as an adult, you probably can't have a giant pile of like hippos in your room that you carry around for your whole life. So I thought, you know what, I need to get rid of these. It's really not cool to like hippos. It's really not cool to be, 15 years old and have all these stuffed animals. Guess what? As an adult, I've gone back. I have a big pile of like hippos around my house, especially I hide them in the baby's room. That's a good little life hack for you later in life. But I just have fully embraced that I like hippos. And the other day, I was at the zoo with my little boys. And there was this like 7-year-old girl, and she was pushing a toy stroller, and it had 2 hippos in it. Like these 2 beautiful stuffed animal hippos in it. And she was pushing them in her stroller like they were her babies. And then I noticed she had a hippo shirt. And I called out to her. She's walking this way and I'm walking that way. And I said, I love your hippos, And she was just like, okay, yeah, whatever, right? And doing her thing. But do you know what that told me? That was she was one of me. Like, she was like a person for me. I keep wanting to say she was my person. And I'm like, no, that's my hubby Josh. He's like my person. But she was like she was one of us crazy hippo lovers, right? I instantly felt connected and I instantly loved her. And I was like, yes, like you don't know this little girl walking by because I'm just wearing a hippo necklace and I had hippo earrings, but I'm one of you. I love hippos, right? And so the same thing can happen when you embrace your quirks. And now I'm not saying you have to like have a hippo backpack like I did in high school, but I'm just saying that like don't hide who you are. Don't pretend, like don't try to soften who you are. I also really tried to soften who I was in high school, not be as intense and not be as like passionate about things, right? And I'm here to tell you, like, there are people out there dying to connect with you over your quirks. There are people out there who are going to love and embrace you because of your quirks and the silly things about you. That's what they're going to love the most about you. And just like me with that little girl at the zoo, I instantly felt so connected, and I just wanted to talk to her and be like, I'm a hippo lover. Like, I love your shirt. I, have hippo shoes. I have this, like, I just wanted to talk to her and geek out about hippos, okay? The same thing can happen when you just embrace and love who you are. Now, effortlessly cool people, they don't judge others or yourself, honestly. So one thing that comes with being cool, and this goes back to my tip of kind of like rolling with the punches and not letting little things, get to you, is just, we don't really judge other people. Instead, we're going to just embrace them and take them where they are. And why I say this is because when you think of somebody that you think is effortlessly cool, and when I think about the people who I thought were effortlessly cool, when I would ask them about somebody and be like, oh my gosh, I saw you hanging out with this person, they would be like, yeah, that person's amazing, right? And I would be like, oh, I was going to say like that person was like nerdy, or I was going to jump on the boat of like, yeah, I can't believe you were talking to that person. Like, they're kind of a jerk, right? Effortlessly cool people, if you notice, don't do that. Instead, they just take people where they are, and they're like, oh yeah, I totally love hanging out with this group of friends. This might be my theater group of friends, and this might be my football group of friends. I love it all. I hang out with all of them, and I don't make judgments about people based on their social clique. I don't make judgments about people based on who they hang out with or what kind of clothes they wear. I just accept and embrace people where they are. And that's a huge part about being cool, because we're learning to do that for ourselves. And that shines through. And that goes back to my silly hippo analogy. But like, when we can be cool with who we are, and cool with, you know what, this is where I'm at school, this is what I'm doing, this is what I like to do, this is who I hang out with, right? That can leak into everything else we do. And all of a sudden, we give off that vibe of being effortlessly cool because we're cool with what's in here. And then we're cool with what's out here. Now, every now and then I do have somebody that leaves me a comment that's like, well, then I'm going to go hang out with my friend that loves to do drugs because I'm not going to judge them. And I'm like, you know what? We need to make a judge for our own safety, right? At that point, it's a safety call. And sometimes people are like, well, my friend, they're just like so rude to me. And the other day they teased me about having red hair, and it was so rude that I actually went home and I cried. But I don't judge them. I love them. And I'm like, whoa, girlfriend. Okay, we take people at face value, and their face value was, hey, I don't respect you and honor you as a friend enough that I didn't stop teasing you and I hurt your feelings, right? I'm going to make a safety call for me, a safety call for my heart, a safety call for my emotions, and say, guess what? I'm not going to hang out with you. So don't use this tip to beat yourself up and say, well, now I got to hang out with jerky people because I don't judge people, and me calling them a jerky people is wrong. It's like, no. We're just, we're going to make sure we take care of us. We don't have to hang out with people we don't want to, but we want to just have this general attitude of like, you be you and I'm going to be me, and we can all be our own selves. And that's, if you ever think about it, coolness, being cool, being chill, being that person that people are like, man, they're just like so cool. It's because they've really embraced like who they are. They're not fighting against it. They're not changing. If a person changes like their personalities or their styles every other day, that might be a sign that they're still trying to figure this out, and that's totally fine. But if we can be really cool with that process, or we can be really heightenedly aware of that process and freaked out about it and anxious about that process. And instead we just say, hey, listen, I don't judge you for, trying all these different things or trying to figure out who you are. And I'm not going to judge me for trying to figure out who I am and what I want to do with my life. So that was a lot to say. Just so much of coolness is embracing attitudes. And one of those attitudes is like, hey, listen, I don't judge you and I don't judge me. I just like let it be, and I'm gonna figure out this life just like you're figuring out this life. And I threw a lot of tips at you, a lot of advice, a lot of hippo love in this video, but I say all that to let you know that being effortlessly cool and being that popular person at school is totally achievable. And I hope you know that. I hope that you can embrace that. And I hope that these tips help you out. If you feel like you have a question, or there's something going on at school, or something in your life that you're just not sure about, please leave me a comment down below. If I see it, I would love to respond and see how I could help and coach you through it. Of course, there's always my website, abbiwinslow.com, that you can visit and get my high school guide. You can get my dating course, and you can get some one-on-one coaching help. So check that out, abbiwinslow.com, and I cannot wait to see you in my next video. Abbi J out.